birthday to Grandstand on your 21st birthday.
Well done on 21 years and here's to 20 more.
Happy 21st birthday, Grandstand.
Happy birthday, guys.
Happy birthday to Grandstand. Happy 21st birthday. A happy 21st birthday. Not just big, huge, ginormous. You're looking so young. 21 today. 21 today. Happy birthday, Grandstand. 21 today.
And welcome to the University of Queensland as Grandstand's 21st continues. Hi, I'm Quentin Hull, and it's time for Queensland's leg of the 21st celebrations here at the University of Queensland at St Lucia. You can probably hear the barbecue and the snags sizzling away. What better day than a beautiful Queensland day and a barbecue to celebrate 21 years of the National Grandstand program. Thanks to Tim Gable. Looking forward to the contributions of Peter Walsh and Simone Thurtell later in the day. But for the next hour, if you're in and around Brisbane, come down and see some of the most famous silverware in Australian sport with the State of Origin Shield and Super Rugby trophies on display here. And I know that the assembled masses here, you can give yourselves a round of applause for turning up, ladies and gentlemen. And also to Brendan Altadonna from Queensland Rugby, who's just arrived with the Super Rugby trophy. Thanks to Billy Hunter from Queensland Rugby League for the Origin Shield being here. So something to eat, a bit of cake, and some great stories as well from the years of Queensland Grandstand with Jerry Collins, Warren Boland, Brad Talon, Ray Phillips, Martin Kent and Greg Dowling, all to join us in the next hour of the program. We've been really enjoying your messages of support throughout the day via the hashtag Grandstand 21st on Twitter. That's Grandstands 21st with the hashtag for Twitter. The Facebook page, there's going to be some photos there. I'll tell you what, a photo of Jerry Collins in the circa 1990 ABC Sports blazer. Think of Graham and the Colonel and Late Show, and that's sort of what it looks like. And, yep, jump on the Facebook page, and, of course, you can send us an SMS, 0467920222, 0467920222. Good morning to those in the West that have joined us as well as our listeners in Queensland. All that to come at the University of Queensland shortly, but, of course, plenty happening on this Sunday of sport, and live sport is what we do best. And we head first to Coolum and David Morrow.
And here at Coolum, we've had a dramatic opening to this final.
Hang on to your chairs, get out of your chairs, get to your feet. We've got a big finish coming up here, and Ashley Callis has taken Australia back to the lead. So Thorpe and Gary Hall Jr., what a great finish to this race will be. In goes Ian Thorpe. Well, that was close. 2:25.37. The Australians out in front, and for the United States, Gary Hall Jr. is giving it his all, and he's caught Ian Thorpe. The United States in front, but Thorpe hasn't given in.
But Thorpe will come back at the second lap better than Hall Jr.
Well, they're coming up to the turn, a little bit more than 50 metres to go. The US in front, Australia in second place, still not much between them.
Thorpe's right at his waist there.
Here comes Ian Thorpe, America in front, the United States and Australia, 25 metres to go. It's Gary Hall Jr. and Ian Thorpe, the US and Australia, the US just in front. Thorpe finishing for Australia, US Australia, US Australia, Australia finishing well. Australia does it. Ian Thorpe and Australia have got the gold medal. Do you believe it? They have beaten the US. They've beaten the hot favourites. They have come up with a goal. 2 goals to Ian Thorpe and 3:13.67. The time is just... 30 metres to go for Kieran Perkins for another gold medal. Kieran Perkins, a sensational swim. We have said that before, but there's been nothing more sensational than this. And an interesting battle for the silver between Kowalski and Smith. But it is all Kieran Perkins. He has killed them. The gold medal to Perkins. He's defended the title. 4:56.40. Well done, Kieran. Great battle for silver. Will Kowalski Kowalski gets the silver. Gold and silver to Australia for the second Olympic Games in succession. But let's hand it.
A call like that, I mean, I've known Jerry Collins for a very long time. He's an absolute legend, brilliant at what he does, and certainly makes it sound as, well, much more exciting than it might have even been. But it was a special time, and it's certainly something that you never forget or take for granted.
15 metres to go. Australia can win gold. record as well. Duncan Armstrong, you real ripper. 1:47.25, and Australia wins its first gold medal at the Olympic Games. Duncan Armstrong has done it, 33-1. Oh, give me the money.
And Duncan Armstrong, our guest on Grandstand, sitting with me in the studio. I should have explained that.
Did you have a punt on it?
Well, no, I didn't. But before the race, I said to Norman, how would you rate his chances in the final? And if you looked on form, you'd have to rate him at 33-1.
Oh,
and I mean, if only there was a market around, and if only we'd have put it on. And yeah, so that's how that comment just came out. And unfortunately, there was no bet.
Happy 21st birthday, Grandstand.
Happy birthday, guys. On ABC Local Radio, online and on Grandstand Digital.
This is Grandstand.
Grandstand, bringing you 21 years of live sport.
Well done on 21 years, and here's to 20 more.
And a warm welcome back to the University of Queensland. Quentin Hart with you for the Queensland leg of the celebrations for Grandstand's 21st. And of course, it could not be a celebration in Queensland about Grandstand without the great Jerry Collins with us here, ladies and gentlemen. Just a few snippets of one of the greatest careers in Grandstand broadcasting, and to think, Jerry, welcome, great to see you here. The recently retired but still heard often, Jerry Collins.
Yeah, people keep saying that. Yeah, I've been able to just dabble a little bit, which is really nice.
And we're here at the University of Queensland, and shortly Brian Pride, the Executive Director of UQ Sport, is going to tell us a bit about this being one of many important sporting institutions in Brisbane and Queensland. But we heard from Kieran Perkins then, and the David Teal pool that you've done laps and laps and laps of so many times over the years is, well, it's a Bubba Watson drive away from where we're standing at the Athletic Centre.
On my way out here, I just had to drive past and see what was happening with it. Because of the floods, it was totally wrecked, and it's being redone, and it won't be open, I believe, until January. But it's where I've spent so much time, because I essentially swam nearly every day, 5 days a week, and that's where I did it. And so this place is so familiar. And I started there when they heated the pool for winter in about 1994, I think, thereabouts. So not long after Grandstand was started. And as it turned out, it was at that time that John Carew and Kieran Perkins and his entire crew came here to train. So I'd see them every day. And I can always remember at the Australian trials in 1996 when there was the concern about Kieran, and he'd had a shocker in a 200-metre heat swim, and all the media were gathered around John Carew. And in the end, John's just frustrated, saying, I don't know what's wrong. And in the end, he just sort of turned to me and said, well, Jerry, you see him every day. Can you see what's wrong with him? Well, if you can't see it, John, there's no way I could.
And that's just one of the many names that Brian will be able to tell us about in a moment that have got to the heights because of the great facilities here at UQ Sport. But I think, apart from anything, ladies and gentlemen, apart from the magnificent broadcasting career that Jerry has had and continues to have, I think one of your greatest achievements is being able to fit into the ABC Grandstand official Olympic polo shirt from Barcelona in 1992, almost 20 years ago, ladies and gentlemen. He still fits into it. Looking great, Jerry.
Yeah, well, I went through the wardrobe to see what I could find that was from around about that time, and this was probably as close as I could get to it. Plus, of course, the old horrible lime green jacket which we wore for television around about that time, and it was almost embarrassing to wear it. I used to hide it under my arm as I walked into Ballymore, then put it on for the time we're in front of the camera, and then put it back under the arm as you walked out.
Immortalised by The Late Show and Graham and the Colonel. And if you want to have a look at Jerry pictured in that green jacket, jump on the ABC Grandstand Facebook page. A reminder of the Twitter hashtag Grandstand's 21st, and also on the SMS 0467920222, and a couple of the tweets coming through from a tweeter tagged Footy Couch Daniel. Happy 21st at ABC Grandstand. The friend a sport fanatic can always rely on come the weekend. Thanks, Footy Couch Daniel, and many more of those messages coming through on Twitter, Facebook and on the SMS. But whenever you have a party, you always say thank you to the host, and our host today here at University of Queensland is Brian Pride, the Executive Director of UQ Sport. How are you, Brian?
I'm very well, thank you.
Nice to have you along. Drop some names for us, because it's a bit of a who's who of Australian sport as far as the facilities here and how they have honed some of our greats.
Very much so. David Thiel, as you know, 1956 Olympics swimmer. Larry Sangstock, current CEO of Basketball Australia. Natalie Cook, Susie O'Neill, Kieran Perkins, who I heard earlier. They've all been UQ graduates or involved with the university, and we have a number of key athletes playing in a range of sports right now as well. Chris Hartley was the 2010 Sheffield Shield Player of the Year, also our Sportsman of the Year in 2010. Mitchell Watt, the recent silver medalist at the IAAF World Championship in long jump. And we have a range of other scholarship holders, and of course the captain of the Australian Wallabies is a UQ graduate as well.
Yep, James Hall, of course, and we're at the home not only of the Athletic Centre here, but the home of the Red Heavies, as they're known in Brisbane Premier Rugby. The UQ athletics track has the rugby field in the middle of it. And Brian, it's looking spectacular, and I think as much as your institution shares its role with so many in Queensland, I think it's one of the strengths of Queensland sport that there are so many great facilities to hone the skills of our sports people. But you are one of the many sporting organisations that was absolutely devastated by the January floods, and to think where we stand today is probably a metre and a half away from the flood peak, and you had to rip up all your tennis courts, your rugby field. I think your track's only a couple of weeks old now. It's just been all relayed.
Yes, the track was just opened about a month ago. We lost pretty much everything except one oval. So the netball courts, all 21 of the tennis courts, and a few squash courts in our sport and fitness facility, as well as all the equipment that came with it, and that was washed away down the river.
And Brian, the swimming pool, when will it be open? Is it January or thereabouts, I believe?
Yes, thereabouts. It's all weather permitting. With the roof on now, it'll speed up quite a bit because most of the work's undercover. We're hoping for a pre-Christmas opportunity to get it open, but we're driven by the weather, and it will be a marvelous facility. The two pools themselves remain as the original, although the Learn to Swim pool will have a tiled surface. It's the amenities. Everything around it has been changed.
And one of the great memories that I have, having just moved to Brisbane about 11 years ago, and Jerry was my boss and mentor, and he said, okay, well, one thing I always do is go out and call the great court race. And anyone who's ever seen Chariots of Fire would just have those images flooding back, and you don't want to fall over during the great court race, but it's one of those, I suppose, parts of sporting history here at UQ, Jerry.
Oh, it is, and it's a fantastic event. It's essentially it's just a run around the courtyard, as happened in Chariots of Fire in the film, but they have other events with it. They have a 70-metre sprint as well in the middle of the courtyard, and they have relays, various college relays, intercollegiate relays, and it's a wonderful event. But then the men's and women's finals are always something really, really special. And I started doing it probably, it's got to be getting close to 20 years ago, and I've been doing it every year since. And I even came back from Newcastle this year to do it. I've enjoyed it so much. It was great.
And since you brought that up, a lot of people are wondering what's Jerry Collins doing. They probably think, oh, you're still working in the office, because they hear you regularly on Grandstand. But back down in your roots at Newcastle?
Yeah, it's where I grew up, and it's nice to be back in Newcastle. So I'm living down there, retired full-time last year, and but what's been nice is that I've been able to do some part-time work for the ABC, so things like working for 1233 ABC in Newcastle, doing general programs, which has been interesting, and
cooking and gardening and all that stuff,
and still being able to do just a little bit for Grandstand here and there. So I did a cricket match at the SCG a couple of weeks ago, and hosted Grandstand, of course, last weekend, which was great, and I'll be back hosting Grandstand when the Sydney Test match is on as well.
Yeah, we weren't going to let you get away that easily, Jerry. It's great to have you.
Well, it's great for me to be able to just come back and do those bits and pieces.
Quentin Hull and Jerry Collins, along with Brian Pride, with you on ABC Local Radio. Grandstand's 21st at the University of Queensland. If you are in Brisbane, pop down because there's still some sausages available, and the birthday cake is yet to be cut, and you can win some tickets to the upcoming cricket at the Gabba. But Brian, just before we finish, it's great to see your facilities back up and going again. I see your new plexi-paved courts on the tennis centre, which has honed the skills of Stoser, Rafter, Tomic, just to name a few over the years. It's intricate, isn't it? The fact that there is this organisation, the Queensland Academy of Sport, then the national sporting bodies. I'm not trying to miss anyone out here, but I think people in this part of the world are really lucky that not only do their academies and national systems hone sport, but there are these institutions that get behind sport so much and produce great names.
Very much so, and we're all...
it's reflected across the country as well, of course.
Yeah, and we're all intimately tied. I mean, we work directly with Queensland Academy of Sport and their ACE program. We're also involved with the AIS. Many of the scholarship athletes that we have are involved with AIS to even fine-tune their skills more so. UQ Sport operates the Queensland Tennis Centre, so we're part of the action out there and the development of junior and elite tennis stars of the future for Queensland. So it's a great opportunity. We're involved with a range of organizations. Most of our clubs are tied in with the Queensland Sport Association, so everything's linked. None of us could stand independently.
Well, Brian, thanks for coming along. Thanks for hosting our party today. Brian
welcome.
Pride, ladies and gentlemen, from UQ Sport. More to come from Grandstand's 21st, the Brisbane leg at the University of Queensland in just a moment. Holland, who's just turned up here at University of Queensland, having done his morning show here in Brisbane. He'll be joining us a little bit later to speak about some more great moments in Queensland sporting history, but it's quite iconic, the 68-year wait that was finally ended. Gillespie caught Rackerman, bowled Jackson as the Bulls finally claimed the Sheffield Shield in 1994-95. And cricket is so much of what we do here on Grandstand, so it would be remiss not to reflect on some of the many long days at not only international but domestic cricket. Ray Phillips is actually on duty for us at the moment out at Border Field. Come in, Razor.
Well, good afternoon, Quentin. Good afternoon, everybody. It's still lunch here, by the way. New Zealand 3 for 214.
Hello, Ray.
G'day, Jerry. How you going?
I'm really well. Nice to hear your voice.
Yeah, and yours as well. And, well, it's almost 12 months to the day, Jerry, when you signed off. And we were, I think, calling a Sheffield Shield match. And I must admit, I was dreading the last couple of minutes because I know you're an emotional person, and I know that I am. I cry at the drop of a hat, and my kids take a mickey out of me because I'm a big chick flick man. And I was just dreading the last couple of minutes, and we were looking into each other's eyes not romantically, of course, but I know it was going to be emotional for you. I knew it was going to be emotional for you, and I knew you were starting to well up, and then I was starting to well up, and thank goodness Karen cut us off at 5:30 or whenever it was, because we would have been a mumbling mess. But it's been a privilege, Jerry, to work for the ABC, and of course alongside of you, and it's a very happy 21st birthday to Grandstand. And you know, I've been associated now with the ABC for a bit longer than that, because you'll remember probably calling, well, you don't, but Roger Wills and Drew Milford calling ABC TV cricket to the regional centres from the Clem Jones stand. So it goes back a long, long time, but I just can't be grateful enough to you, and in more recent times, of course, to Quentin, in which we have a fantastic relationship, and it's something that I'll cherish for the rest of my life.
And Razor, you spoke of the emotions. A chance to relive a few of those as we bring in one of the former cricket commentators of ABC Grandstand, a man who played 3 tests for Australia, still heavily involved in cricket, is Martin Kent. And Martin, thanks for joining us on the telephone. How are you?
Pleasure, Quentin, and good day, Jerry and Razor. I'm a bit worried about you too. I always knew there was something in the background there.
Well, we go back a long time too, Martin, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, well, Martin and I, of course, played for Queensland before they were known as the Bulls, Martin. You know, Michael Bleacher, the marketing guru here at Queensland Cricket, instigated the names, and of course all the other states followed. But we go back a long way, and well, the history of Queensland cricket that we've been involved with, it's just been an amazing journey.
And Martin, what are your prominent memories of your time working for ABC Grandstand covering cricket at what we call the old Gabba?
Well, it was a beaut spot to commentate from to start with, perched up above the Queensland Cricketers Club, or adjacent to it in the stand. I suppose it goes back to Mearsy's days, and of course a long association then with Jerry, Peter Longman, and others. I know I'll miss a few names, but it was just a beaut time, and I think some of the best cricket to have watched and been able to talk about was the domestic Sheffield Shield competition. And I guess, if anything, everyone who was associated with the ABC thoroughly enjoyed that relationship with the Shield in particular, and then, of course, the pinnacle in 94-95.
And Martin, just tell us why that, those who live in Queensland are very aware of the great drought and the search to finally reach the Holy Grail. I know that piece of music a short time ago, many were thinking, you've stolen that from other sports. I know Channel 10 used it as their theme of their AFL coverage a few summers ago. But if you've been in Queensland, it's the Bulls winning the Shield in 94-5 song, no doubt about that, thanks to hunters and collectors. Just reiterate why the emotions was so high and why it was such a big moment in Queensland sport, despite it being, in inverted commas, just a domestic sporting trophy.
Well, 69 years is a long time. It's a big drought, and Queenslanders, like everyone, like to have a win occasionally. We couldn't cross it off through the many eras of the state cricket, and one of the lasting problems that a drought like that brings is the niggle that you get from the other states, and that niggle went on and on and on year after year after year. So it was particularly pleasing when Andrew Bleacher and his team did come up with the brand, if you like, the Bulls, and of course that all then that's the rest is history now. It's been a tremendous success for them. And talking about welling up, I think I did a bit of welling up on the day that catch was taken as well.
I was going to mention that, Martin, because I remember you laughing at us getting emotional. Boy, the tears were rolling down your face. I remember that.
Well, I was very thankful actually at the time, because I was due to come on to my shift in the afternoon, and of course the ball kept rolling, and the team finished off. I just wouldn't have been in any position to be calling anything at that particular stage, because you're dead right. I did have the emotions going on that day.
But you weren't the only one. It was a day when grown men cried well and truly all around Queensland, I think.
Absolutely, and one that has lasted now for so long. People have, always talking about it, talking about the catch, talking about the ball that disappeared, and it was just a wonderful little piece of history at the Gabba.
Well, Martin, thanks for your time. Great to hear you back on ABC Grandstand.
Thank you, Quentin, and I always enjoy the programs. I've enjoyed Grandstand, both sides of it, for the balance of my time. So it's been really tremendous, and still great to know that, the guys that I've been, lucky enough to work with, I'd like to class as friends. It's just been a really tremendous relationship. It's good stuff.
Good on you, Martin Kent, just one of many cricket commentators who have joined us over the 21 years of Grandstand. And a special shout-out to the man that took the wicket that claimed the Sheffield Shield. Rackerman took the catch, but it was from the bowling of Paul Jackson, who we spent many a summer with, Jerry. And news coming through this week that Linda's given birth to their third child. So congratulations, Jacko and Linda and the growing family. They're now down in Melbourne. And
of course, both of them were so much a part of Grandstand. Of course, Carl was our expert commentator as well for many years.
Thanks, Razor. Hold tight. We'll get back to you a bit later on. Grandstand's 21st from the University of Queensland. Later on today we'll be at the Adelaide Oval with Peter Walsh and at the SCG with Simone Thurtell. But just seeing on Twitter, hashtag Grandstand's 21st, send them through. Look at Facebook and on the SMS as well. But Senator Mark Arbib has sent in a tweet, happy 21st ABC Grandstand. Keep up the good work. Sport in this country wouldn't be the same without you. Well, thank you. More to come in just a moment from here, but let's whiz around the venues, starting at Coolum with David Morrow.
And drama with a capital D is certainly unfolding.
Stand Digital.
This is Grandstand.
Grandstand, bringing you 21 years of live sport.
Welcome back to Titletown, as we've called it in 2011. Quentin Hull and the Grandstand team at the University of Queensland. It has been a year of great tragedy and amazing sporting triumph in Queensland. To think of the horrible weather events at the start of the year, but then the sporting teams of this region rallied to bring so much joy to their people with the wins there of the Brisbane Roar, the Queensland Reds, the Queensland Firebirds, and of course the Queensland Maroons. And our thanks to Queensland Rugby and also the Queensland Rugby League for bringing along the State of Origin Shield and the Super Rugby Trophy. A lot of pictures up on Facebook to have a look at, and the fans enjoying them here. And just before I introduced the integral members, along with Jerry and myself, of the Queensland team, Warren Boland and Brad Talon, and one of the old league favourites, James Hansen from the Reds, has turned up, and it's great to see him here. James, gee, we were there and we covered the game, and you still hear the moments of Will Genya's try and the Crusaders with the ball only 40 metres out as the time was ticking down and you only led by 5. It still gets the hairs up on the back of the neck. Has it sunk in for you guys, even, well, almost 6 months on?
Yeah, it does bring back some good memories, but obviously that was a while ago now, and I actually still haven't been able to watch the game, so I've still got it. That's still on the to-do list, but it's been pretty busy up until now, and I think now that the pre-season started, the focus is all about next year, which is pretty exciting as well.
And you're in a moon boot, unfortunately. You hurt yourself at training.
Yeah, 3 days into pre-season, I busted my foot, so it was disappointing, but it's better to happen now than during the season. I went a whole season without an injury, and a few days into pre-season it happens, but hopefully I'll be back up and running by Christmas.
Pretty special time, wasn't it? When you think back, how do you think you'll remember the season of 2011, and I suppose the journey of the Reds having come from the joke to the champions?
Yeah, I think that was the special part of it, is that a lot of the guys were new faces, but in saying that, it came with a new attitude, and everyone just wanted to get the job done, and everything fell into place, and it was just a great year. Everyone enjoyed themselves. Obviously, we were winning games, and it was just great to see the whole of Queensland get behind us.
Great to see you here. James Hansen from the Reds, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for coming, James.
Yeah.
And of course those moments, all the big moments in sport across the country and internationally, not only just here in your home state, you hear them live on Grandstand, and the people that help bring you to them. Warren Boland's here, who called the last wicket in the Shield in '95. How are you, Warren?
Yeah, great, Quentin. Good to be here.
Among other talents that Warren has, we'll speak about that in a moment. And Brad Talon, who started at ABC Sport when?
1973, I did my first job running results for the Australian surf titles at Burleigh.
Wow. And you've gone on to not only be a stats man, but a sideline boundary commentator. What other jobs have you had, Brad?
Oh, bits and pieces, covered a whole lot of different sports. Rowing, been up the head of the river on a few occasions. I've called rugby sevens for Fiji, met the King of Fiji, interviewed him as part of that.
Jerry knows a lot about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like that.
The cheap, where we had to do ads in the call.
The only time there was ever ads.
And it was
on
a cheap sale. And by the end of it, you felt like a chicken.
and Warren, it's great to have you here. Like many of us, we're the imports, we're the southern migration who have come to live our lives and work in Queensland, but you've been here since
1985. I moved up from Sydney to Brisbane, and and I think the first thing that strikes you is the culture of Queensland and their pride in their teams, and it takes a little while, when you're from New South Wales, to sort of become part of it. But I think you've got to live here for about 30 years, and I've nearly made it. I've nearly been declared a Queenslander.
Well, a Queenslander through and through is someone that you know well, and Jerry and Brad worked on our rugby league coverage for many years. The famous, the infamous Greg Dowling. How are you, Greg?
Hello.
Nice to have a chat to you.
Yeah, mate, how you going?
Oh, fantastic. Jerry and Warren and Brad are smiling here. I'll let them take over because before my time, Greg was an integral part of the team, wasn't he, Jerry?
Oh, well and truly. GD, it's great to talk to you. We shared some magic moments in that broadcast box, didn't we?
We certainly did. There were some great moments there, and we watched some great sport. Look, that was the greatest thing after retirement for me that I suppose helped me go into retirement from league, having played the game so hard and so full on. Working with you guys in the ABC just made it just so easy, and that transition of retiring and then going into the sporting world, I suppose, as a commentator. But working with you guys, as I say, was just tremendous with Warren, yourself, Brad Talon, started off as our stats man, and now he's the David Middleton of stats throughout Queensland. And they made our job so much easier and made us feel welcome. you got a chance to see the person who was behind the voice, and that was the beauty of working with you guys.
Well, I think for us as well, and Warren, I'm sure you'd agree with me, after years of watching, for those people who haven't seen Greg Dowling in action, one of the toughest men, surely, Warren, that you'd ever see on a footy field, and yet when you really got to know him, he's a bit of an old softy, isn't he?
I wouldn't go quite that far, Jerry, but he's certainly a good bloke, and you can have a few laughs with GD, there's no doubt about that. And to end up commentating with a legend of the game here in Queensland. And of course, you remember, like 1990, the Broncos came in 1988, and it was a time of some turmoil in rugby league because all of the old clubs like Valleys and Brothers and Easts and Norths, who GD played with, you know, a lot of the fans at those times weren't necessarily fans of the Broncos, and the Broncos had to win them over and won a lot of the fans over quickly, but probably had to work a lot harder to get the rest of them over as the next 20 years has passed. And GD, of course, played for the Broncos, and GD, you would have been part of that sort of mixed feelings, I would have thought.
No, you're right there. If you didn't like the Broncos, naturally you hated us. And if you remember a couple of years down the track after the Broncos came in, there was a side by the name of the Crushers came in. They're the side I really felt sorry for, because one of my, I suppose, blights on the whole of the 10 years that I worked for you guys was the Super League war, where it nearly ripped the game apart. And it's only just recovered in the last couple of years. So what's that taken, 14 years or so to get back on track? And you could see mates were actually torn apart over their allegiance to whether it be Super League or the Australian Rugby League. And that's, I suppose, the greatest blight on the game through my association. But you talk about the Brisbane coming into it, then you had the Crushers. That gave the people an opportunity to support a side if they not necessarily liked the Broncos. But I really feel for those guys, because remember a great man in Tosser Turner, he helped start that club and was left in the lurch by both sides, the Super League and the Australian Rugby League. And to the day he passed away, it hurt him very much.
Well, Greg, it's great to hear from you, and you're enjoying your life in the more northern climes of Queensland now. Great to share some memories with you.
Mate, it is, yes. I'm back in the north now, and I tell you what, it's bloody hot up here at the moment. We've had a bit of rain around the place, but I've had to get used to this heat again. And every now and again, the family says to me, Dad, why aren't we in Brisbane where it's cool? But anyway, guys, happy 21st, and all the best.
Good on you, Greg. Greg Dowling joining us from Atherton or thereabouts, up in the northern reaches of the state. Warren Boland and Brad Talon. It's one of the great disappointments that I have, not having shared a commentary box with Greg Dowling, nor having seen the old Gabba, as someone who's been in Brisbane for 11 years now.
Yeah, and of course the Gabba, the scene where Queensland won the first Sheffield Shield for Queensland, as you said, Quentin. I've always felt a bit guilty that I stole that moment away from Jerry, though, you know, because I just have... It was...
He's had enough, haven't you heard all the tributes?
Well, in actual fact, we got a phone call from ABC in Tasmania, and they were so fascinated by it, they were desperately wanting me to call it, and I was trying to do other things, get people organised, whatever, so I ended up calling the end of it behind you on a telephone.
So you did. Have you got a copy?
No.
Because there'd been so much, so many tears in Queensland over not winning the Sheffield Shield, and so much despair in other years. And then it finally comes to a finish where it was inevitable that Queensland were going to win on that day. And so it kind of went on, and you wondered when the moment was going to be, but you knew that it was certain Queensland were going to win the Shield. You didn't even have to win the game, did you? But and so when Jerry said it's your turn to commentate, I thought, I bet I'll get the ball here, and I took it away from you, Jerry.
Even a bit of Talon family history, and that Bill Talon had a bit of a stutter, was Don's brother. His dad's cousin was famous for saying Queensland will never win the Sheffield Shield till they raffle it, and Queensland buy all the tickets. Unfortunately, he passed away before he saw it, but it was a great day for Queensland.
And great to have Brad Talon and Warren Boland here among all of you. Thanks for turning up at the University of Queensland. We've got the cake cutting in just a moment, so stick around for some cake and we'll draw the cricket tickets prizes. But a special thanks to Jerry for coming up. I know you've got a few other things to do and people to see, but well, yeah, it doesn't seem like it was 12 months ago that you took me aside and said, Quentin, I've got some news for you. But it's great to hear you regularly still on Grandstand. A big thanks to JP Crawford from University of Queensland Sport for ensuring we've got a great position here on the University of Queensland Athletics track and Rugby Club. Michelle Pownell from our marketing department. excitement, and as ever, the man that rarely gets on the microphone, there will be an excellent conversation hour one day with Robert Apolloni. Aussie Bob.
Say a word, Oz.
Say happy birthday or something.
1, 2, 1, 2.
Got him. The 21st
That's probably the most heard sound in ABC Radio.
Thanks for your company from Brisbane. It's still a big day ahead, particularly our teams in Adelaide and Sydney. Next up, Larry shirts don't make great radio, but a man that wears them does. And Peter Walsh is taking up the cudgels after the latest from ABC News. Quentin Hull signing off from UQ. But more to come on this Grandstand 21st Sunday.